I'm beating a dead horse with some of these videos, as you guys have said.
Steven! I thought you were dead!
But I think they're just way too valuable to pass up. Of course, what I'm referring to is talking about women who are using steroids to perform some degree of physique enhancement. And while their physiques are commendable, I more so focus in on the side effects that are presenting with that long-term use. If you haven't seen some of the other videos that I've made already, I would recommend you go check those out. They're pretty helpful, and I explain a lot of pharmacology and what these women are doing and the practices of bodybuilding within those videos, but of course, I'll be doing that in this one too. Today, we're going to discuss the story of Ilona. This one's diving real deep down into the K-hole, so make sure you're buckling up and put your socks on tight. This is going to be interesting. Now, a lot of what I say in this video might sound a little bit mean. It could really be mean, and actually I'm not trying to be. I'm just kind of talking about things in a factual sense and what they really are. I'm calling it out, but also what I'm doing is very clearly recommending that maybe people don't do these things because they don't understand what the effects of them might be when they first start doing them, and these people are pretty good examples of that. It's not meant to hurt that person or besmirch anything that they've done. In fact, with this individual today, I think there's a lot that I enjoy about this person, the content they've created, the lifestyle they're living now, and much more. So please don't go bully anyone, and certainly don't take this as me bullying anyone. This is literally just a conversation between you and I and the symptoms of using steroids. Contrary to how we start our normal videos, I'm actually going to talk about her from the current day, not all the way in the past, but where she's at right now. As we allow the search engine to surf the billions of online profiles, we end up with an Instagram, a woman posing 24 weeks pregnant. She is sticking to herself in the gym in what is likely a very uncomfortable situation. This is nothing short of commendable, to be honest, because a lot of women would definitely be making excuses as to why they shouldn't or don't want to work out, yet here we have someone lifting quite heavy. As you can see, she's sticking it to the gym in a very highly uncomfortable situation, making no excuses, but getting stuff done. This is nothing short of commendable. I think what often happens when people discuss steroid usage is they equate that to taking the easy route or taking the shortcut. And while it might be a shortcut, doesn't necessarily mean it's an easier route, because you still have to put in tons of hours of work. And this is a really good depiction of how someone can truly work extremely hard whilst maybe taking a little bit of substances. No doubt they're definitely doing the work, which most people wouldn't be doing. Because we see a girl here with a big old belly managing what looks like a loving family, a lot of furry creatures, one with even 3 legs, and seemingly someone who is working hard at being a good person. I guess it's someone who has legitimate values as opposed to basically setting aside her dreams and desires because of the pursuit of bodybuilding. She has a recognition that life has to continue on outside of bodybuilding. So now we have an established idea of where she's at. She's enjoying life, she's pregnant, she's traveling with her husband. I think it's great. She's still getting exercises in, staying healthy, and doing what she can. But let's dive back to 2019, because this is where things start to get interesting. We're presented with a YouTube channel, and in fact, a video, which was her first video, simply titled "Welcome to my channel." In this video, she tells us a few things about herself.
My name is Ilona. I am a 32-year-old. I am Dutch, but I am living in England, and I'm a part-time bodybuilder. At the moment, 7 weeks out for a final in which I can win a pro card, and that's part of the reason why I decided to start a YouTube channel and start vlogging, because a lot of what you see on Instagram and YouTube is glorified. So I want to be fully transparent with my vlogs and show you the good and the bad, what I eat, what I take. Having said that, I don't want my channel to just be bodybuilding vlogs. I want it to be more versatile.
It's clear that in this video, she's setting the groundwork for what her channel is going to be and how she's going to present herself on that channel. However, suddenly and almost instantaneously after that video was posted, we start to see a certain pattern develop on this channel that actually works fairly well for her. The pattern starts with this video.
My name is Ilona, and I am also known as Shikara Transformations on Instagram. I'm a personal trainer, and this is the first time I'm doing a reaction channel. So I've been kind of playing around with YouTube. I've got a series called Beauty and Barbells, where basically I do my makeup, I talk about training and fitness related science things. Besides that point, what we are going to do here today is we are going to be doing a reaction, and we're going to be doing a reaction to a lady called Foodie Beauty. She is quite well known within certain circles online. There are an awful lot of reaction channels out there. I follow pretty much all of them.
And here she's given us an indication that she's actually deleted maybe what is a lot of videos because she talks about different video series. Not sure why she deleted these videos, but it was for some reason. But following this explanation, the entire video is about her reacting to specifically obese people talking about their day-to-day life or trying to explain how they are healthy even though they're morbidly obese.
So guys, and no, I'm not too old to wear a bow in my hair, okay?
I think she's still for bow and hair.
Stop age shaming me, among other things. Bra sniff shaming, the list goes on. How else are you going to tell if your bra's fresh to use the next day?
Hold on, did you just say bra sniffing? Surely you know whether or not your bra's dirty by means of how much you've sweated in it or not. You don't physically have to smell your clothes. I suppose, like, I don't necessarily wash my bra every day, but I don't know, should you? I don't smell it, but you know when a bra's dirty, right? Maybe I don't. Maybe she's not wrong with what she's saying here. Maybe I'm portraying myself in a bit of an awkward light here.
Well, I think it's really nice. To me, this content isn't really digestible. However, it does seem that her audience really does favor her opinions as it relates to talking about obese people. What also becomes abundantly clear is that this is sort of her breakout video for the channel, which she experienced pretty early. She didn't have to make years of mistakes like me. She found basically the blueprint to success. And of course, she milked that blueprint for virality, and it worked. This is actually something that me and Shar talked about in our last video where we discussed all sorts of fitness influencer stuff. Where did social media come into play with all this? Because obviously you've developed like this huge following. Part of it is the posing videos and the card stuff. Where did this come from? And like, when did you start to consistently post? And then what gained you traction? And then why do you keep doing it, right?
I don't know. I think at the time I was like losing a lot of friends because I was very committed to the gym and they all wanted to go out and drink and party and I didn't want to do any of that. So I was like, well, maybe I'll just try and do something out of social media, because I was like, well, if they're not going to listen to me, then maybe like people on the internet will kind of care. So I started posting like random, like if we scroll down far enough, which I know you definitely have, there's there's like photo dumps where I would just post like what I've done, like just like heaps of photos of what I'm doing, and then that kind of started to do okay. And then I randomly was like, let me just set up my phone in my car and flex for a video and that video gets like 8 million views and I get 10k followers, and I was like, oh, that's a bit random, like, but I was obviously the first person to do that kind of trend, so it became like a thing. And then I milked the absolute hell out of it. Like I milked it on my TikTok. Like I don't know if you've looked at my TikTok, but like down like a couple years ago I was milking it. Every video was a car video, and that's how I gained followers on TikTok, like that. And it was just like, I'm not going to fix it if it's not broken, you know what I mean? So I was like, whatever.
And this is actually what I'm doing with this exact video. Once you find something that seems to click in the algorithm, you kind of just have to continue to milk it because that's the thing that people want to see from you. But before I do continue, as I make this video and milk the situation, I would pity you for a subscribe. It helps me a lot and it takes a little bit of your time, not much at all. And while you're down there, we actually have a few resources that might help you. One, the sponsor of this channel, which is Blood Build Coaching, has a link down there where you can get direct one-on-one coaching with fitness professionals. They're going to build you training, a diet, and some of the most comprehensive accountability programs that you've ever had. All of this is going to be included with free lab work. The team will provide you laboratory markers to go get drawn and then assess those laboratory markers and implement them within their programming. It's really comprehensive stuff and it's just completely risk-free. There's a money-back guarantee for up to 8 weeks. If you're not happy, you get your money back. Click the link down below if you'd like to learn more. If that's not something you're interested, we do have a school group that we've developed over weeks and weeks and weeks, putting hundreds of hours of content onto it where you can learn about fitness. You have free fitness programs, nutritional programs, all for free. You can join right now down below with the link.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
She continues to post these form of videos and it seems to work quite really, honestly, super well. This particular video rivals my own best videos, like with interactions and likes. It's really impressive. So now, just a few weeks after starting her channel, she already has the blueprint. And let me tell you, she milks it.
Mama!
I am here today to react to a TED Talk by Virgi Tovar. She's become quite famous for being quite an active part of the fat acceptance movement. She is, without being rude, she is one of those typical fat acceptance feminist type that hate men. She feels like just because people are bigger, they should be entitled to certain things and that the world should change around them.
And her opinions on the obesity epidemic aren't too far off from my own, and I think a general population level would agree with her.
I personally have no big problem with big people. If you want to be fat, that's fine. But then you also need to accept that that does come with risk, health risks. And also you have to just accept that it is not normal. Equally, I have to accept that being as muscular as I am is also not normal. And that's fine. I don't mind being the size that I am. I don't mind being muscular. But I equally don't expect the world to change around me to accommodate me and my needs. Granted, there are a lot more obese people in the world, but then that is mostly because of the fact that it's just become normal to be overweight, and it's not normal. It's unhealthy, and it's not really within our nature to be obese. I think, you know, back in the days you would see obese people at like freak shows, and now it's just become the standard. And a lot of it is just, in my opinion, due to gluttony, greed, and a lack of discipline.
Basically, don't demand changes for society to accept you if you've done this to yourself and it is not the norm. No one else is doing the same, to include bodybuilders who spend their life pursuing gains. They don't demand to be fitted into society because they're different. They recognize that they made those decisions to be different, and therefore that is their own sacrifice. And you can really start to see her aggressive personality shine through here, but in a polite kind of way.
Most people believe that discrimination against fat people isn't discrimination at all. Sometimes it's difficult to see how implicit bias shapes the way we see the world around us. For example, is it possible that you are less likely to believe me or imagine me as a trained professional or an expert now that you know that I'm the real...
Yeah, but in what though? In what? Are you a trained professional? Please elaborate. Or is this one of these sciences that's not a real science?
And I think she's kind of brave for making this content, because 5 or 6 years ago, people weren't doing this. Calling out obese people during the COVID epidemic would have been crazy, but now it's a little bit normal. However, back then, she was definitely making some headway in an area where people really hadn't before. And her takes aren't so rude and just dramatic. They're somewhat practical and level-headed, which I think is why people really like her. And of course, she starts to branch out and make more videos as well. This one regarding veganism is one of her most viewed videos, and she talks about how this individual who has the vegan diet is basically just creating an eating disorder. And the only way that she knows that is she had suffered from one herself.
I'm an online coach, a personal trainer, and a bodybuilder. I'm also a recovered bulimic, which is quite important in regards to the channel we're gonna react to today. And it's about a YouTuber called Dr. Dre. Not Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Dr. Dre. She is a dermatologist. I don't care if she's vegan or not, that is not the problem. The problem is that she's clearly anorexic and she is pretending to be healthy under the guise of veganism. If you watch this compilation video, it's actually scary to see. I mean, this is literally like somebody being 800 pounds, except the complete opposite end of the spectrum. It's quite sad, but at the same time, she has a big following. A lot of people admire her, a lot of people look up to her, and that's equally as dangerous as being morbidly obese, in my opinion. It shouldn't be glorified. It should get the same sort of negative attention, really, as what morbid obesity does. And I feel like we should also be critical of people like her, and not just of the people that are morbidly obese. Both have mental health problems, both there's underlying concerns. I get it. I have had eating disorders as well. I understand it, but glorifying it and perpetrating it on YouTube by essentially being a pro-Anna channel, because that's what she is, in my opinion. She's pro-Anna. That should not be allowed.
She was basically analyzing this person's eating, talking about how it related so much to the eating disorder that she had, and then complaining about that in a very sensible manner, trying to help people. And honestly, this is wildly typical within the fitness industry, and specifically females. Several studies have found that around 45 to 50% of female athletes have eating disorders. Furthermore, this study found that about 45% of coaches, female coaches, have massive eating disorders. A very interesting statistic, but it's kind of clear when you think logically why this happens. And it's clearly not discussed within the surface level of the fitness industry these days. You see a ton of women with tiny waists, the line down their center abs, which every woman wants to achieve, peaked shoulders, and a great set of glutes. But what they don't talk about is how they're maintaining that consistently across a 360 365-day period. As well, what are the things they're doing in the inside when they're trying to keep that body? Drugs or something else, maybe even surgery. So again, good on her for talking about this. I think it needs to be discussed more.
Squats.
But putting this all aside, you likely clicked on this video for one reason, and we're going to talk exactly about that reason. Where I want to take you is to current day on her YouTube channel. While she was actively making these reaction videos, she was also pursuing bodybuilding heavily, trying to achieve her IFBB Pro card, a status symbol amongst bodybuilders. It's the highest rank that you can get per se, and something that almost every bodybuilder wants to get at some point in their life. They'll go just about to any ends to achieve the IFBB title.
And new IFBB Pro number 79, Sam.
Even though it really holds nothing of significance outside of the small rank of people who do know about it. To this day, she still hasn't achieved it, but it's something that she still desires to, from what I can tell. So understanding this, let's dive a little bit deeper into what's going on here. In her most recent video, it's continuing down the same vein of content that was the original content that she was making, a reaction video on obese and overweight people.
Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to the channel. My name is Ilona. I'm also known as Chord Transformations. I'm an online health and fitness coach and I'm also a bodybuilder. What I mostly do reactions to is health and exercise, body positivity, some fitness influences that are not influencing right, and sometimes the other side of the ED spectrum, but mostly I react to people that are on weight loss journeys and that are lying to their audience about what they're doing.
And I gotta also say, just because I'm talking about this and bringing it to light doesn't mean that I am some saint. Doesn't mean that I'm the best person in the world. Doesn't mean that I haven't made mistakes in the past. But it does really bring at least importance to my life to talk about these things with a set of knowledge or skills that I've developed over time doing this stuff. So let me compare these videos. I'm gonna compare the one that we just showed you, the newest video, with the oldest video.
Welcome to my channel. Feels a bit weird to say that, I have to admit. So, I've decided to start a YouTube channel. We'll see if it's successful or not, but why not? My name is Ilona.
Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to the channel. My name is Ilona. I'm also known as Chord Transformations. I'm an online health and fitness coach and I'm also a bodybuilder. What I'm not though is that I'm not a doctor or a nutritionist. I'm just a person on the internet with thoughts and opinions.
I'm sure you can see where I'm getting at, right? By now you've watched enough of these videos to get it. There's clearly been vocal fold changes that have entirely adjusted her sound and how she speaks, as well as morphological changes to her face. You can see it in her eyebrow ridge and jaw. And for those of you who are new here, this is a very typical thing that happens to female bodybuilders. And no, building muscle, training heavy with weights, and eating lots of protein isn't the only thing that's doing this. In fact, it's not even part of what's doing this. People, you gotta eat your fucking protein and train hard. It doesn't matter if you're a female or a male. You're never gonna get overly muscular. I've been trying for almost a decade and I still haven't cut it, even with steroids, okay? So it's not gonna happen to you. Don't worry, you're safe. Eat your protein, go train really insanely hard, do your cardio, and be a healthy individual. You going to the gym and just being that person isn't gonna lead to something like this. Let's start with pointing out what is extremely noticeable here. First, she has elevated herself into a new YouTube setting. She's upgraded her camera and gear, and I think that's awesome. It looks like she's gotten some facial treatments done, which I also think is awesome because you should be able to do what you want with your body, no judgment there. But what I'm gonna talk about is a couple different things. When I say morphological changes, I'm not referring to lip treatments or other things. And trust me, if you go down that route of cosmetic enhancements, I'm not one to dog on you. I have more Botox units in my face than rocks in the moon, so it is what it is. But the clear differences here are her voice and her facial structure. You can see this much more clearly on Instagram. Here she is with her husband and they're traveling, which again, let me start by saying she's in a relationship, long-term, happily, and pregnant, so that's beating most people in this world. But what you can see clearly is quite a few changes to her facial features, especially when we compare it to that first YouTube video we talked about. And this is due to steroid usage combined with a bit of growth hormone. As I was scrolling through her Instagram, it became abundantly clear she was quite transparent towards the latter half of her bodybuilding era and was telling everyone what she was taking. And so to disclose that information to you, it was taking 150 milligrams of primobolan a week for a prolonged duration of time. And then on top of that primobolan, it was taking Anavar, which was undisclosed, the total total milligram amount, but it was likely, I'm assuming, 10 or more milligrams a day. So an additional 70 milligrams a day or week. And then on top of that, there was clenbuterol at, I should believe she had at 1.100 micrograms, and then an additional amount of growth hormone, which I believe was at 1.5 IUs, and then maybe titrated up, but I wasn't able to find clearly if that was the case. And look, we can demonize this all day long, and I can explain exactly why that is astronomical amounts of androgens for a woman. But if you want to compete in bodybuilding, especially at this level, the level that she is at, the desired look isn't one that's going to be achieved going the safe route or using low doses even. It does oftentimes require really extreme protocols. And like it or not, oftentimes it just supersedes safety to be in the sport of bodybuilding. And there's nothing we can do about that. If these people are going to use these products, I saying this will not be able to impact their decisions because their overall goal is to win that damn trophy. So just to get this straight, at her peak, me postulating here, she was likely taking about 220 to 250 milligrams of total combined androgens. Now, the way that a lot of steroid junkies would talk is by saying that certain ones are safer for women than others, but I don't believe in that at all. It's total anabolic load. It's total androgenic load. How many milligrams of male hormones are you putting into your system? That is going to be the systemic stress that leads to masculinizing features. We have talked about this in previous videos where transgender affirming therapies using hormonal therapies will use nandrolone, they'll use Anavar, they'll use anything because it can sometimes be better to transition on a compound that doesn't have massive amounts of conversion into estradiol and DHT, dihydrotestosterone, because of the off-targeted side effects one might experience. But these compounds all act on the androgen receptor exclusively, creating a singular and almost identical nuclear reaction with the DNA of a cell. That's it, full stop. An androgen receptor is going to be activated by an androgen. That's it. Now, to explain why this dose is sort of astronomical, 220 to 250 milligrams of androgens, this is about double what a male would be prescribed for TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. So if a male was to take double the amount of testosterone or any other androgen, he would considerably be super physiological in terms of his hormonal output, even though it's input because he's injecting it. But you get what I'm saying. It's very abnormal to have that many androgens in your system. Alex Eubank, for instance, was doing 200 milligrams of testosterone and blew up something like 20 pounds within 3 months. If he's using 200 milligrams, and in this case we have a total combined milligram or anabolic load of about 220 to 250 milligrams of androgens, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Now, these steroids, they bind to androgen receptors and specifically bone cells, particularly in areas like the mandible, the lower jaw, or the brow region. This binding triggers increased osteoblast activity, which means more bone formation and thickening. We see this in the faces of many bodybuilders, not just females often. The longer they are exposed to these compounds, the more severe the changes. A few weeks wouldn't really do much to a person in the terms of developing bone mass, but give a couple extended seasons of bodybuilding, and that's what's to be expected. And the reason that this happens in the face and various other locations of the body, but not others, isn't super well known. It's possible that the androgen receptor density, how many androgen receptors are going to be located per area basically, is much higher in these locations, as well as the basic cell turnover in those locations is also much higher. As well, our face has these things called sutures. They're basically fibrous joints between plates of bone, and they can wax and wane a little bit and therefore allow for growth and adaptation and not creating a skull that's very fixed in place. So it can grow, which is something other bones do not have. Like your humerus does not have sutures. It can't just extend suddenly or spontaneously. And when you combine the bone building effects of growth hormone with these androgens, two compounds that she was using exclusively together, it's going to create more pronounced changes within the jawline and forehead brow. Simply put, anabolic steroids deliver a high dose of androgens that signal the body to grow up. Certain bones, like the jaw and around the eyes, start to appear more robust. Meanwhile, growth hormone boosts the overall growth process through IGF-1 and creates a cascade of effects. Now, thankfully, she was able to have a successful pregnancy, but a lot of women who are abusing anabolic steroids and other compounds can't unfortunately say that because your uterine lining can get really jacked up from blasting androgens. And if you're not infertile control forever. You can be at least momentarily, which can be devastating on a family system sometimes. I've seen it. And what she talks about often on our Instagram as you kind of scroll through is she explains when she's getting her menstrual cycles and when she's not. And it turns out most of the time she's able to maintain her menstrual cycle even on PEDs, even on a prep where she has virtually very low calories, doing much more cardio than normal. She's quite healthy in that sense. And completely honest, it's a very rare occurrence within bodybuilding. Now, her coach is well known in the bodybuilding space for working with these kind of athletes, these bigger women. And it seems he coaches some really well-known bodybuilders as well, like the classic Queen and Terrence Ruffin. While we scroll through his profile, it's obvious he's known for getting women absolutely yoked, which is great. However, I would like to get to know a little bit behind what's going on. What are the doses being used of total androgens? What are the compounds being used? And the selection of compounds being used. Obviously, he's coaching these people almost exclusively, so I have to wonder if she's using somewhere around 200 milligrams of androgens. What are the other women using? I'd be so curious to hear what you guys have to say about this. This one's a bit odd because it's someone who's actively competing in a very, very large women's category and reasonably could justify the use of anabolic steroids. But would you personally, you watching, think that that transformation is worth it? And to be honest, a further transformation as she continues to compete?